Okay, hello everyone. Today we are going to review the second installment to the Journey to the Center of the Earth series, Journey to the Mysterious Island. So this movie starts out automatically with Sean getting in a little bit more trouble, I would say, than probably the first movie, although he is trying to, I guess, find the coordinates for the Mysterious Island, I suppose, or I believe that's what he was trying to do, but he couldn't break the code, and he didn't have enough satellite power, I guess. So he broke into this facility to get a better connection, I suppose, in order to get his grandfather's message, or at least that's who he believes the message was sent by anyway. So his stepdad, Hank, helps him decode the message because I guess when he was in the Navy, he learned Morse code, I guess. So 2-syllable words are, what was it, 2 dashes or 2 dots, and 1-syllable words are something like that. Something along those lines. Anyway, he helps him decipher the code, and then it ends up being these 3 different books about this 3 different books, 3 different stories, but all about the same island. So I guess that's why nobody could ever find the actual mysterious island, and I guess the original author of the book was Jules Verne. So I guess these movies are probably based off of books, just judging by even the first movie being based off, I believe, a book as well. So they did kind of do like a little throwback to the first one where it shows like newspaper articles from their like Iceland journey from the first one and stuff, and so on and so forth. So you know that Sean's definitely kind of carried on in his uncle's footsteps as to what he wants to, as to being an explorer, I suppose. So Hank says to his to Sean's mother, who was played by Kristen Davis. Her name was Liz, and Hank is played by Dwayne Johnson, and Sean again is played by Josh Hutcherson. So he says like that was their biggest bonding moment, was putting the map together and finding the coordinates and decoding the message, so on and so forth. So he says he really wants to take Sean on this adventure to try to find the mysterious island. And he says once they go there and they find out that the island isn't real, and they find out that his grandfather isn't there, he'll be the one to kind of, I guess, console him in that situation, and he thinks that'll bring them closer together. So he does end up getting 2 tickets to go down to where the mysterious island is. Now, where was the actual location? I know it's in the Pacific Ocean, but I can't remember where they were actually traveling. In the beginning. I know it's to the mysterious island, but I can't remember the name of the place that they traveled to first in order to find an actual tour guide to get there. But I guess that's not too important, is it? I guess you'll kind of find that out for yourself when you watch the movie. So anyhow, they go to the first location, obviously, they needed to go to find a tour guide that would take them to this mysterious island. But the first tour guide they go up to says, no, absolutely not. And Sean says, we'll offer you $1,000. And then all of a sudden this other tour guide steps up, who was played by Louis Guzman, who played Gabato. And he takes them to this boat, or is walking by this boat, and they think, oh my god, that's his boat. And then he ends up being on this little broken down looking helicopter type deal. And he says, then he calls for his daughter, who was played by Vanessa Hudgens. Her name was Kalani, I guess. And so she comes over, and right when Hank thinks that, he goes, there's no way we're taking this helicopter out. Sean goes, well, now that I've seen it again, I think it is a really beautiful helicopter or whatever. So he's clearly in it for trying to... He clearly wants to go now because he wants to be able to get the girl, right? So they do fly through this huge storm in the helicopter, and then it ends up getting struck by lightning, as well as ripped apart, and Sean says that they have to fly into the eye tornado to find the actual island, which turned out to be true, because then they end up getting on the island. And that's when the real danger sets in, because the first real thing that they encounter that's dangerous is this giant lizard. And there's a little clip of Hank and Sean passing this guy with a lizard, and he says, "Whoa, watch the lizard." And Sean goes, "What, you don't like lizards?" And he said, "Oh, only when they're made into boots and belts." So you do get a little of Dwayne Johnson's humor in this movie for sure. So then as they're traveling on the island, they end up running into this lizard, like this whole field of eggs, basically. And they end up waking up the mother, who goes after them, and that is when they find Sean's grandfather, who has been on this island for I don't know how many years. He traveled there by boat. Unfortunately, his boat was torn apart in the tornado as well. So, sorry about that, guys. The video just randomly cut out, I know, because I forgot to delete the other videos I'd actually deleted from beforehand that I put on my computer. They were still in the deleted folder on my iPad, so sorry about that. But I just went back and checked where I was at exactly to make sure, and so I was just saying that they do end up finding Sean's grandfather, Alexander, and he was played by Michael Caine, so now he's kind of become the leader of the group, and that's right when I noticed that the timer had went back down to 0, so I just wanted to kind of reiterate that point, just in case anything got cut off. So he kind of makes fun of Hank a little bit and doesn't call him by his real name, because I guess he hasn't really earned his respect, and kind of pokes fun at him like, there's no way you could have done this, blah, 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 you're definitely not an Anderson, right? So he basically thinks that Sean did it all by himself, was able to find the island all by himself and decode it and so on and so forth, but as it kind of goes along, there's kind of even a bond, definitely between Hank and Sean, but also between Hank and Alexander. Especially, I would say, one of the realer moments in the movies was after they're singing the song, after Hank sings a song. I think it's a very real moment, because he says his dad used to sing him that song all the time, and then they ask him where he is, and he says, "I don't know, he left when I was 8. And I'm not sure whether that was actually a true thing, but you can kind of feel the tension in the room, or I guess in that scene was a little bit more intense and kind of real than anything else. So I'm not really sure if that was actually kind of like a for real moment. I'd have to go back and look at that and kind of dive into that story to see if that's actually true, because if that is true, kind of a heart-tugging moment that they had in that movie, and I'm sure it wasn't easy for The Rock to for Dwayne to actually go through that in that certain scene. So, but anyhow, before all of that happens, the song, I just kind of wanted to touch on that. There is a moment, because through the movie, Hank kind of is trying to tell Sean how to get the girl, and he says, when you're trying to get the girl, whatever you think is your instinct, do the opposite. And he said, there was another rule too, and then he said, you always got to do the third thing. Women have been reacting to it for years, and he does this little peck pop of love, he calls it. So then he tells him to grab a berry and throw it at him. the other guy, Gabato, throws all these berries rapid fire at his chest, and they just kind of bounce off. Now I believe this movie was actually done in 3D when they originally did it, so that scene was kind of funny, because I guess the berries would have been looking like they were flying out at you on the screen, right? So I guess there was a little bit of 3D in this, but probably not very much as far as that goes. I will say, though, the bird chase scene with the bees, where they had to ride the bees up, I think it was Poseidon's Cliffs, was definitely cool. I believe maybe that wasn't Poseidon's Cliffs, the first cliffs they went up. I know they had to get up the cliffs in order to, because Sean's grandfather shows them this huge like town that ends up being Atlantis, and I guess it has like a cycle where it finally sinks every so many years. I can't remember the exact timing. I think it was 140 years. Every 140 years it sinks. So Alexander believes that it shouldn't be sinking for another 14 years at least, but and they're going to be trapped. They were told that would be trapped on the island for at least 2 weeks. So he thinks they have time, but then Hank mentions that something is off. I can't remember the exact terminology for it, but the island is definitely sinking faster than Alexander had thought, and Hank says they have maybe a few days. So they do end up riding these bees up this mountain, and they end up getting chased by birds, and I would say that was probably Sean's moment to definitely kind of make Kalani pay attention to him, because he does end up saving her, because he's trying to be super heroic, so he's trying to get away from the bird. Hank and Alexander play chicken and make the two birds smash together. She ends up falling off the other bee that they're on. He tries to catch her, but she falls, and then he is able to get down to the ground before she does. I'm not really sure how. Maybe, I guess, because the giant leaves broke her fall, but anyhow, she goes, "Oh my God, you saved me." And he kind of goes, "Yes, I guess I did." And then he tells her to get off the bee, and he chases it through, makes it chase him through all these spider webs, and the bird gets caught, and then he ends up dislocating his ankle. So I think that was the point where it shows the scene, or maybe that was just after the scene with the volcano that shoots out gold. So obviously Gabato says to his daughter, or says to Kalani that he wants to put her through college, and he says that he promises that he will. So the next morning when they wake up, the water's actually risen way faster than they thought. And at this point, they're trying to get to the Nautilus, which is Captain Nemo's submarine. So they end up having to split up. So Alexander and Kalani go back and look for her father, and Hank and Sean end up going to the Nautilus to try to get it started. And that was probably the most, I would say, the most unrealistic scene in the movie, when they're trying to get the submarine started, and Hank goes back up above the submarine with just a tank and a helmet on. So obviously that would not work in real life, because you would need the whole suit underwater, but I guess for movie purposes it worked for that scene, I suppose, just to get the giant electric eel to shock the boat to get it running, because without that they wouldn't have been able to get it going, right? So they do just save Alexander, Gabato, and Kalani just in time. They scoop them up in the Nautilus, and then Gabato takes control of the Nautilus while Hank loads a torpedo into the ship to blow up the rock that's in front of them, so that they can actually make it out of the collapsing island that's all around them. So they do make it out, and then I think the next scene was literally, I guess now Gabato's got his own high-end or high-paying cruise job, because he's using the Nautilus to take people on cruises, so now he can do like an underwater voyage, right? Which would be much cooler than just a little helicopter ride, for sure. So he's obviously making the big bucks, so he did keep his promise to his daughter that he would be able to put her through college. I believe she might be in the States, because he says something about Ohio, and I guess she is back in the States, because she ends up being with Sean at the end of the movie. And then his grandfather shows up and gives him this book about From the Earth to the Moon, and then that's kind of where it ends, on that cliffhanger ending of another adventure, obviously. And I can't find anything about a third movie potentially coming out, so I don't know if there ever will be, but they did definitely left that one on a cliffhanger for sure. So it would be interesting to see a third installment to this movie. Whether it'll actually happen or not, I don't know. Now, I will say the animation was better in this movie. They seem to kind of focus more on attention to detail with that, as opposed to just kind of plopping in whatever they needed to in a scene. Obviously, not all of it looked real, and I think maybe this movie was more meant for 3D as opposed to just regular 2D or HD or however you want to say that. So I wouldn't say this is quite as good as the first one. I would probably give this one about a... Now, what did I rate the first one? That's a good question, because I can't quite remember. I think I might have given it a 10, or something very high. I would probably rate this one about a 6 out of 10, and I guess the IMDb score was 5.8. It just wasn't quite as good as the first one, and some of the lines in it were just a little goofy and weren't really needed. They could have been cut out. But overall, I would say this is still like a good family movie to watch for sure. And I mean, I do like Dwayne Johnson's acting, and the rest of them are just, obviously they've been around for years in acting and stuff, so I do like the rest of them too. Although Kristen Davis didn't really have a huge part in it. She was just kind of at like the very beginning of the movie and the end. And I can't remember, was she in the first one too or not? I don't think she was. So I think it's like basically a whole brand new cast, except for Josh Hutcherson, who plays Sean. So other than that, I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about for this movie. So as always, like, share, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on this film if you've seen it. If not, it is definitely worth the watch. I would say go watch the first one wherever you can find it now. I believe it's on Amazon and Crave. It might just be on Amazon, but there's so many movies coming out on all 3 different platforms that it might even be on Netflix now too. I'm not sure. So you should be able to find it somewhere if you have one of those subscriptions, or you might just have to rent it or buy it. I don't know. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye for now.